Well, Jamie, we're back again for the second episode. I didn't think we would have got to two, but you and I can talk. Well, you can talk more than me. This episode today is sponsored by, it's a big boy in the work, Ross Murray. His dad owns a window company, a double glazing company called Brighter Openings. And I've no doubt if somebody goes and says that they know us and they're on the podcast, maybe a big Ross will get them a couple of quid off. So we'll see how it is. So the last one, Jamie, we started rushing it a wee bit with 10 minutes to go because I thought the 2 hours would have been enough, but we had a lot to colour. So we've still really we got to within a couple of weeks of Caverna leaving. So what we're going to do is you give me a couple of bullet points and I'm just going to ask you to pick up for there. So the first thing you says to me is from February, Caverna, they announced they were leaving shipbuilding. And I was asking you earlier on, do you think it was to do with the subsidy or did you think they just wanted to do it at shipbuilding?
Well, I mean, the official line was that they were leaving shipbuilding worldwide, which they did do.
Yep.
They left there. I dare say there was subsidies. They were not and never were open with the trade unions about business, the business matters. It was very much that we tell you what to do. There was no rapport with them. So, yeah, they could well have been getting that, but they did leave shipbuilding worldwide. And it was quite surprising because they shut their yard in Norway. And the Norwegians were surprised to find we were causing bedlam back in the Clyde trying to save our jobs, whereas over there they were just accepting it.
They just took it as a matter of fact?
Yeah, well, I got a phone call from the equivalent of our Sunday Mail, and one of the reporters came over to interview me on that, and he said, you know, fighting for your job, they just take everything, that's the way it is. I said, well, that's the way it is here. And I basically hammered Caverna for the whole attitude. You know, they certainly were not a people's person company.
Oh, no,
no way.
I think we realised that once they come in, and I know any company that comes in to run another company, they've got to show a profit. They've got to show that they're making changes. We, at that time, I was going between the shop floor and the quality jobs because you were peaks and troughs. There was some work, there was no work, you were back in. The main thing is that we were keeping jobs. But they didn't have any, there was no empathy in anything that they'd done. You were a number, and that was it.
What I objected to the fact was I knew we had a first-class workforce.
Yep.
That was known to me more important people later on. Good craft skills, good climate, close units working together, manage change very well. That thing about managing change, I've been asked over the years by many people, newspapers and media, politicians, what's the most important thing to businesses and industries just now? It's managing change.
Yeah.
Because if you don't manage it, it'll manage you at the door.
Well, if you stand still, people overtake you. You've got to move with the times. But you've got to show that you can still do what you were meant to do. And I've always said that. I put a comment in the book a couple of years back when we were talking about the Talking Horse. And I remember we went to the meeting in the Talking Horse and up to Wally Clydesdale. And he said, you've promised us this job, you've promised us that job. The only thing you've no promised us is a fucking Starship Enterprise. And I made a joke here and I says, if we got the contract to build the Starship Enterprise, we could have probably done it.
Yeah. I mean, in later years, obviously, after Caverna, we proved that it's not a matter of bragging, it's factual, but track records for being innovative. Managing change is very difficult because often people are stuck in the way of doing it and they don't resent change. Sometimes they're fighting and they're concerned about it. You need to make that move. And I did make the point that we made the gigantic jump with Bobby Gordon initially. That flexibility agreement. That transformed government for good. At the time, there was great apprehension. I had great apprehension as well at the time. But it turned out to be our saviour. So the Norwegians just didn't accept that. It was very much we saying you do.
We say jump, you say how high.
Yeah, the unions and the yard, the guys, they were sponsors such like, but they won't let anybody take them for a ride as such like.
Well, when I think back to who we had then, I don't think we really had. We didn't have the Alec McEwens of the world then. Alec could fly off the handle and want to hit the streets for the slight thing. And there was yourself and Mick McCauley, you Paul Connolly, Jai, Mick Giblin. Guys that thought before they answered.
Yeah.
Whereas Alec and even Charlie Kirton, who were great guys to be there, but they would have a knee-jerk reaction, which could maybe put you in a wee bit of bother before you started arguing back.
Yeah, so basically they were not good for us. And they left when they did leave, they left with a very bad smell behind them as such like, because in essence, they legally looted the SIPS pension scheme. They looted the money. You understand that SIPS is a very good pension scheme. it's a final salary that you can't get anywhere now.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, when a company's leaving or shutting or transferring it, right, they've got to, their books have got to balance. If they're leaving as such, like, they need to prove to the auditors that if the place shut, every person's money that was already contributed would be safe. That's X figure, yeah. And if you have above that, and we're considerably above that, then they could have given us a pensions holiday,
Mm-hmm.
what the next employer, or they could have increased their benefits. They did neither. They took the surplus. It's legal.
Now, I'm not a pension
It's
person. I know nothing about
wrong.
them. Was that money that Caverna put in alone, or was that money that the people, the punters put in, and Caverna?
You've got to remember, SIPS goes back
I'm
before
not paying,
Caverna,
I don't know.
into big shipbuilders, etc. So it's a long-standing scheme. It moves employers, but it still moves with you.
Yep.
Okay, so in other words, Caverna would have been given the SIP scheme, and they inherited it and kept it for a while. You've got to remember, when we moved to Caverna to BAE Systems kept us in SIPs as well, which was fine. Although BAE Systems scheme is every bit as good as us.
Mm-hmm.
It's only recent years they've moved us in. But you can have a conversation with BAE Systems. They're concerned about their sort of reputation. So there was no hook or pookie there. But SIPs served as well. As I say, they took that money and they knew what they were doing.
Oh, of course, I know daft that way. So you'd say to us that leading up to those weeks, take us through the highs and lows. We jumped on it the last time, the highs and lows of February when you started, the clock was ticking and we didn't have a buyer and you were getting phone calls and what have you.
Well, I mean, obviously they made that announcement they were shutting. That was it. The media were flying about everywhere. I told you the first interview I did with the media ever. They were all there and they were asking, what's the situation? I says, well, we're going to have a campaign to save this yard because we believe we've got a good yard.
Yeah,
and it's
well
saving.
aye.
And I know behind the scenes some of them were saying that all the conveners say that, and 6 months later it's shutting. Well, I told you we went to the workforce the day after that, made it quite clear. We'll lead you, workforce, if you'll support us. I remember asked one man, one woman to second that, and that was done. And throughout that whole 6 months, which was a turbulent 6 months, a horrific journey, by the way, for us all,
highs and
myself
lows,
included, my family. So situation was there. Well, let's get moving on that. Obviously, the government were involved right away, and what was agreed that they set up a task force, which I have to say did a tremendous job for us. I was disappointed because Jimmy Reid, in actual fact, made a comment to the media which wasn't very friendly or appreciative, considering
the journey he'd been on.
they fought the campaign in 71 and here we were 28 years later,
in the line, aye.
for the same thing. And he dampened the fact that he said, oh, they'll do the task force, he'll talk for a wee while and they'll be left in a lonesome, no shut. I thought, well, I wasn't happy with him.
I'd expected him to
As a
be
matter,
back.
I'd have pulled him up for that, etc. Although it didn't diminish my fact with the workforce, they said they would stay together. So we set the campaign, wrote out to a lot of the Labour MSPs, to which none of them replied, which was worrying. So it's like the voice of people. And then I had Daily Records phone me up, etc. Was it about the Labour Party? I said, well, we contacted a lot of MPs and MPs, there was no MSPs at that time, just changed it. And then I'm sure they had interest. I was worried about that situation. But still we plodded on, so it got hot. Then obviously the task force had Gavin Laird, he was a big union guy, John Reid, Lord MacDonald, and a couple of top civil servants. And they turned out to be a good team. I couldn't explain how helpful they were. They were absolutely different from what John Reid said would happen.
I think that's way for it, and I noticed it one of me. I wasn't a great lover, and so the guys that when we went to a mass meeting in the back car park years back, Donald Dewar came, and he was very, very bland and unsupportive. He'd done a written bar say, pack your bags and just shit. And I'm saying, I didn't expect that. I mean, normally you get MPs who'll give you the rousing, banging in the chest, and we're going to win this and win that, but they're not interested. But he made it quite clear to the workforce. In fact, if I remember right, I think he get booed and get asked to move on, and I wasn't expecting it.
Well, as I say, John Reid and MacDonald they were sent by the government to go in and see if government was worth saving. And Gus McDonald worked in government years ago.
John Reid, didn't he? Didn't he? John.
No, he comes from Bell Solby, but he comes from a work class
But
background.
I didn't know if he was
And he talks a lingo. But I trusted them, and my trust was paid back because they were excellent. Same with the civil servants. I cannot fault them enough. But obviously, we have to meet with Governor. It's quite clear down in London that they're going to shut the yard. And I remember John Reid and Gus saying, "Come out in the veranda, Jamie." And they went like, "We better start looking for another owner, Jamie, and quickly." Such like.
So this would be what, February, March?
Yeah,
early
that's
year.
that time. And what actually happened was that obviously we're getting a lot of media coverage, which was good. And in actual fact, that Donald Dewar was going to a meeting in the SEC.
Yep.
I says, "Come on, we'll go and we'll collar him before he goes into the meeting." So got a good few stewards. I says, "We'll go and try and catch him." And they did a runner. They ran in the back door. And I said to myself, "Oh, that's potentially our leader." Remember, there hadn't been the elections yet. That's their leader. But then other dealings with him, etc. I don't like speaking ill of the dead, etc. But he was not what I would call linked to industrials, heavy industry. He was partially quite sort of boffinized.
I think you kind of looked down on as if.
Yeah, he said that.
We found out right away standing at the meeting, and I remember him. He stood in the back of a lorry. He had a lorry. He stood in the back of the lorry and he shouted his spiel and he said, "Listen, we'll do what we can, but I don't think we're going to keep you open." He didn't show any enthusiasm to keep you open.
Well, the guy says to him back the word, "How you got on with Don Dewar?" Says he did a runner on us. And of course, a meeting much later on, I'll tell you about a minute and etc. There was almost an explosive confrontation between him and myself. And if it hadn't been for the intervention of John Reid, I was going to...
You're going to use that phrase, you're going to gob him?
Well, maybe not gob him, but I was going to right into him. So we're getting the campaign going, we're getting capability. Remember, it came in the back here.
So what did the campaign consist of? I know you're trying to get support with people signing it.
Well, I know the first thing I realised, we better not just be speaking to two men and a dog. I've been knocked back by Labour. So I realised very quickly something that I thought, but no, you was right. The media, good, bad, or indifferent, you need them. They're the voice, the people.
Said that before. If you've got them on your side, they'll help you.
And as it had, I think we formed a great relationship with the media. We were very open with them. They used to say that. You go and ask the politicians, or even some of your national union officers, and they give you the party line. I said, "I'll just give you my view and the truth." He said, "That's what I'll give you." And I think they quite liked that.
I think at the time you were a different kind of breed. You mentioned it the last time that somebody says, "Oh, you're not helping the Labour Party," and you went, "I'm not here to help the Labour Party. I'm here as a trade unionist to help my fellow workers." Years back, when Scotland was 99.9% Labour, every trade unionist was Labour. So they always had that following. That's why they obviously get in year after year.
See, what was interesting, as the campaign opens up, etc., the national officers start appearing. And I told you before, it's quite clear that they were going to take the campaign over. I was worried about that, by the way, letting them take over, because the difference for them and us was, if we shut, they went back to their offices in London. If we shut, we went on to the brew. I said, "No, the workforce told us, we'll lead and we'll follow." And I told that, see, because I was saying these things, it's amazing how people say things. Even one of the papers phoned me up and says, "Oh, you're SNP supporter." I went, "Where does that come from?" It says SNP because I've been against Labour. I says, "Listen, I'm trying to say again, I'm a trade union convener." I say, "See, politics, I'll put them to the side, although I'd expect every political party to fight for jobs in the country and to protect communities." And later on, I got a lot of support for that. But as I say, Donald Dewar says that I just could not say that he was up on board. Of course, another thing that he'd done which was disappointing, I was going down to London this day for a meeting, and I was saying when I go down that time, Tony Blair should make a statement in Parliament giving his support to the workers in the Clyde in the fight for the reserve shipbuilding and government shipyard.
Yep.
And while I'm down in London, or travelling into London, he's talking to me, they're saying, "I had no right to do that." So they come back to me and says, "How did I know have a right? Tell me what is I'm doing wrong."
Voice your opinion.
And of course he come back up and says, "Well, Jamie's quite adamant by his bullish about it, what he's did wrong." And of course, he then changed track and that kind of carry on and gave the support, but he was never on board. In the meeting where the say a fortnight before it, you remember this is getting into the real stuff. The redundancy notices are issued. That's worrying. We decided to take them down to London and dump them at the door.
Yeah, I said I put them in a box and just dropped them at Caverna's door.
Which was duly done. That was well organised, and we turned out to be smarter than what we thought, and we're getting good coverage as well. And the workforce, assuming they trusted us, etc. It was a big responsibility. And when we went down to London with the redundancy notices, Sarwar, he paid the cost of the freight and everything, etc. Well, I'm often asked about Sarwar. Sarwar was excellent with us. Nobody could have did any better. Indeed, he finished his own political career. He was never going to advance because he stood up and asked Tony Blair to applaud the workforce and basically demanded that he supported us. And if Lux had killed, Sarwar was a dead man. That was his punishment for catching him in the hop with such light. So we were persistent in having lobbies. We went to. I told you we travelled through to Hamilton, Motherwell.
Aye, so you went to Leith and Edinburgh.
We did all the places. So we had the profile. The difficulty was that some of the MPs, politicians, a bit of Labour, obviously, would be saying to the national officers, they're saying too much in government, etc. They'll need to get buttoned down a wee bit. But the funny thing is, the media enjoyed that, getting told honesty and that kind of carry on. So I got about a fortnight before it was getting really touchy. And then we heard there was to be talks going on between interested people. Remember, the interested people were not BA Systems.
No.
The three declarations of...
Who were they, the three that come in again?
The three were going to attempt to... Well, did put bids in for us were sort of Swan Hunters.
In Tyneside,
I was concerned about them because the indications come from them as they wanted to turn us into a steel fabrication yard.
We would build the stuff and we would build the ships.
I agree that was our forte. It still is. Govern steelwork fabrication. Take anybody on. It was the workforce bid at that time.
Yep.
But I didn't say too much because that might have been the final.
Well, you can't say you don't want another one and the other one on the table.
We then had GEC, who obviously were owners of Barrow and Scotsman.
But they weren't a shipbuilding mob either.
Well,
GEC Marconi.
You were part of a big organisation.
But I don't think that was their forte either.
As I said before, you can't go out and say, oh, no.
I don't want him.
And the last one was Ferguson's, which
in the tail of the bank?
Which at the time, I get transferred to Ferguson's about...
So did I. I went down as a supervisor.
40 years ago, doing there. A great wee yard, by the way, honestly.
Oh, it's a very family-orientated yard.
And these guys, you could build ships.
Yeah.
Etc. So be quite clear about that. But I mean, that was like a corner shop taking their Tesco. Oh, yeah. So I didn't say to them, hey, you having a laugh, but it was ludicrous.
I've been defending them the last... I put a post on somebody, when they said that they've not got any more work, and somebody come on and with a big spiel about they've cost us country money and this, that and the other. And I said, hold on, there's a lot of things that went on behind the scenes. The Calmac ferries, about the drawings weren't really approved by Lloyds. They were done in a wee back shop down in India and hadn't been stamped and approved, and they built stuff and then they were updating stuff. So me personally, I said, you cannot blame the guy on the shop floor. He's working today, drawing, so that's what he's told today. But they got a lot of, and I've always said that, reputational damage is far more dangerous than anything else.
I mean, the reality is, they've got skilled people down there, and there's nothing worse. I know some guys who did a job, finished it, completed, and they said, we shouldn't start that just now. A log get torn out. There's another drawing coming up. No, just do it.
I know.
That's like you paint the house and somebody coming up and throwing rubbish here, etc.
It's crazy.
So it's anyway, it soon became quite clear that GEC were
the main
contenders as such. Like,
did you meet them? Did you get asked to meet them? No.
What, before?
Before, as they were just as they were in a hat?
No, nothing.
No, just until things are else.
The negotiations were getting done, obviously, by John Reid and Lord MacDonald, etc. So then we get to about a week before it. Big tension by that time. Just spent a week before it. right near the Glasgow Fair, which is usually joyful
June,
time.
June and
That
July,
time.
aye.
So anyway, we were waiting to see the outcome, and I'm sitting in the house at that time, and Radio Clyde phoned me, Jamie, get your backside, we'll be here right now. There's an announcement coming, the fact that that there's that I was too rash. I'm generally not a rash person, but I heard something like I was rash.
Ears were up.
It looks like they've got the basis of an agreement. That word basis, I should have paid attention.
It's like maybe he's aye, maybe he's not.
Well, it got a bit worse. So we turn up, and anyway, it comes on. So he takes, I did an interview, Jamie, on the basis of STB as well. We've got an owner. Because I was absolutely hyper, by the way. Hyper. And my young, I forget about it. I mean, I've got 3 daughters. My daughter says to me, she's only 17 at the time, I think you're missing something, Dad. What she says, they said there's just the basis of it, it's not final agreement. And I said, you don't know what you're talking about.
I know.
I'll be fine.
You're hearing what you want to hear.
He says, she just says, they didn't exactly say that. So I get home still hyper. This is only about an hour after doing an interview. I pick the phone. It's Amanda again. Dad, it's a press association in London, want to speak to you. I go on, didn't Jamie, have you heard the news? I went, yeah, great. He said, have you heard the news? He says, the deals fell apart. So I went from utopia to hell. And my daughter just looked there and says, I told you that.
So.
So that's how it was. We go to the meeting with the workforce the following morning, etc. And it was, I mean, if I told you the restless night that night, it was unbelievable. I could not sleep, by the way. I just couldn't sleep. My head was...
I mean, this is an accumulation of something like maybe a year's worth of tension and meetings and highs and lows.
And the more I thought, the less I could understand what I was saying. Turning up that morning, he said at the workforce, everybody's like, only a week to go. And then I told you this thing that seems spooky. I might even think people think I'm kidding on, but the steward says, what are we going to do, Jamie? And what are you going to say? And I said, I don't know. I'm in the wee back office there. This is true. And I'm staring. And a voice spoke to me. A voice of whatever. Your inner self, he said that. It meant, go to the meeting. The words will come. If I'm talking to my inner self, etc. They meant, go to the meeting, the words will come. And see that stress and all that, it disappeared. See, the time I get back there, I didn't know what I was going to say, but I put faith in that, the words will come. So we get to the meeting, and obviously the place was electric, by the way, concern and everything, etc.
Because some of them still would think that they had an order or they had an owner, and obviously quite a few knew that it was in a balance. So the emotions would be different.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. So I said to them, oh, we can still do it. That fell apart like that. It can regenerate just like that.
Back together.
And then I said this immortal saying that the amount of guys that have retired over the years that come back and say, Jamie, do you remember you said this at a meeting? I said, I know. Why did you say that? I said, I don't know. Somebody told me. He said that it was the show's no about the Park Lady sings. She's in the dressing room, keep her there.
When we were speaking a couple of weeks back and you said that, I highlighted that and I was saying, I thought it was a certain person. I was saying, I need to ask who this fat lady is.
He said that. So I says, stick together. We can still do it. We've had belief, commitment, and unity. Keep that. That'll take us through. And 8 o'clock that night, phone goes. Dad.
Was that the Press Association?
The guy's name was Peter. I don't know his second name. He went, yeah. Aye, it's Peter for the Press Association. He says, that's the final deal. Signed, Jamie. He says, am I glad that I was the first one that could tell you that? He said that because I gave you the bad news as such. Like, so that was us. You turn up for the meeting.
But is that the deal, or is that just a kind of letter of intent, or is that maybe he's not?
Heads of agreement. Yes. There's a general understanding. It's a lot, but
unless something jumps in the woodwork.
I said, no, we're rolling there, and we had the mass meeting. David Torrance, not unknown to me, he got a piper in and that care, and I kid you not, and it was at that meeting. Says, Paul told me it was electric. By the way, we were on fire.
I think we were in Barrow at the time, so we were night shifts. We heard about it.
I can still. I know it sounds crazy, but when we went into the meeting and sat down, everybody was hyper happy. That morning, into work, they were all cheerful and all that could carry on. When you opened the doors of the canteen, you saw that frustration and depression and disappointment sink, and it was this kind of fresh feeling coming in. Alan Thornby, SCB, says, Jamie, that was the best party I had without booze. And the guy in the mirror says, here's the back of my neck, Jamie, we're actually stunning.
I think the majority of that would be relief for the Bears, because to be told that you're going and you're no going, I think we mentioned it before, we sadly lost young Eddie Urey through part of that kind of you're gone, you're no going. You're getting a letter saying he was to go and then a letter saying he was to stay, and he couldn't take it.
Yeah.
And I also think Bobby Duncan.
Yeah.
I've known Bobby since we were 17 in Scots Marine. Bobby lost his wife when he was 20, 22, 23, 24. Left him with 2 kids. So he was relying on the job to give him an income.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was a guy that was, he was doing the praising. And I felt that way that was good for guys like him, because he'd put his life into the ad.
Aye.
As a lot of other people did as well.
So that's us. We've got an owner. It's like the technicalities will take themselves. So BSG's here are basically in, and a couple of days later, we set that a couple of senior people, Barrow, come up, etc., who are obviously GC as well. They called Mick Salmond and Tony Williams.
I know Tony well.
Collectively, and met them and went, glad to meet you, Jamie, and the guys. And glad we've got he's on board with us, etc. And they said to us, etc., right, obviously GC will be Scots at the same time as well.
Yep.
So we're looking at the situation of being Clyde, which eventually we turned out to be as Clyde.
Yep.
And they said, how long do you think it will be to your individual if you won? I went, 10 years. Maybe that was pessimistic, but if we're changing a culture, anybody says to me they're going to change a culture right away is kidding themselves on. The Clyde shipbuilders in general certainly have a common bond together of the industry, so it's like, but everybody wants to be best. They can be quite tribalistic at times.
It was tribalistic. I remember years back, I was going to join the Yarrow Social Club because it was cheap drinking at the pool table and all this kind of. And I remember sitting on Saturday afternoon. You had to go on a Saturday and get your card stamped to become a member. And there was a crowd of them playing pool, and all they were talking about, it was all Yarrows guys. Govan know nothing, they can't build fucking boats. And I know the same was getting said in Govan. To me, it was like trying to join Celtic and Rangers together and come out with one club. It was never going to happen.
We would make progress, etc., but it was
slowly.
Slow. And it's no good batting somebody in the head with something. You need to convince them it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of events as such, like, but the bottom line is, so of course, we've got to honor 2 days later, John Reid pops in to see me. Because I was still high as a kite.
You're still in cloud 9.
I'm still in a cloud 9 with Glasgow Fair coming up as well. And he said, great, Jamie, the unity of the workforce and the commitment was amazing, etc. You all did yourselves proud, etc., right? And he says, but that's the easy part of it.
I know the hard work begins.
Aye, and I thought he was kidding on. I was waiting for the punchline. He went, no, it was in. He says, you've got the 2 ships, because we're getting 2 ships, obviously.
The 2 boat,
he says, but it's to build on that, Jamie. Build on that, that'll be the thing. Because there was rumours already, they build the 2 ships and then they'll bunk you again. He said, I said, no, that'll not happen. He said, so he wished us very well. And into this transition period as we move into sort of...
I'm getting into the millennium and you're getting into 2000, aye.
And I don't know what was happening, because all you want to do is get Celtic and build the boats. That's the name of the game. And of course, we're sort of, I say, just concentrating on building the ships by we can build a future here for us. I felt the guys would respond as they did. But then again, you get the wee whispers. There's another interested party. There's talks going on way above us, etc. And then you start to hear BAE Systems, which I knew nothing about BAE Systems. No. I looked up, obviously a big defence company.
Aerospace and all that.
Aerospace and tanks and all that sort of stuff. So, and obviously they were going to take our Barrow as well, not because GEC. See, that's going to be a big for them. Put up with them land, sea and air. I just say, just all we wanted to say was
You're really interested in me, but aye.
was build ships.
Aye.
And the climate began to build, and then we said we hear there's talks going on. And just as we get near, it was about, in actual fact, about a fortnight before Christmas, talks with Barry. But the funny thing is, just before that, we got a delegation for the MOD. And the government had dealt with MOD for a while. And some of the MOD people were up and they wanted to speak to me, 4 or 5 of them. And the leading one was a woman. Nothing against that, but they were leading, but they were obviously coming up to suss out the territory and what it's like. So we're there, and I made another stupid comment that nearly got me into trouble, and I didn't mean to. So they come in, I'm saying MOD. What's had this idea is distant people, strange characters, and just no very friendly. I don't know where to go with it, but I just thought, bit wary. So anyway, the woman, she says, BCC, Jamie, we've been watching things. That means for a while since like we want to speak to you and just be very honest with you. That's all we're asking. It's like, and she says, so just be free to speak. Don't worry. Just tell you to say. I don't think so. Somehow I'm saying it was. And she says, I says, well, it's just a perception of the MOD coming to speak to us. We've not dealt with for a long time. And she says, what's the perceptions? I mean, sort of distant creatures from the Black Lagoon. I don't know how I said that or where it came from. And I said, yeah, idiot for saying that to myself. And I said, there's a silence for a second, right? And then she started laughing. No, and then the other one started laughing.
You're lucky you go to jail.
She went, is that half in jest and full in earnest? I went, yeah. She goes, that's absolutely fine. She says, you've said what a lot of people think, but in actual fact, I can assure you, we are still human. And it went fine. It's like, you know. So then obviously you've got B systems in. And the kind of thing about it was, you know, that, I told you before that I don't judge people in their role in the company. The guy that looks after the laboratories are the people in the canteen. If they're not important to other people, they're important to me. And the people in top places want my respect and they earn it and they'll get that back. So it was clear that Tony Williams was going to be saying on me sort of these systems. I was happy for that because he was a shipbuilder, spoke the lingo.
I don't think you knew. When I met him in there, he was a manager. And they called him the White Rabbit because he had a white hat where they used to put the 2 ear muffs up and they sat up. And I remember when I was doing as an inspector, the guy says, oh, here's a White Rabbit coming. And I says, where? So it was Tony Williams.
So he was going to be in Govan. And I had an intuition saying, we're going to go on well. I don't mean cuddly relationship.
No.
I mean, we're going to go on well. He's a shipbuilder.
I found him very honest, as I would say. I found him very honest.
And approachable. There's deep side to him as well, but by and large, I said it's important after the trauma, working with Governor, distant people, just somebody would understand and appreciate it as well. And then obviously he was there for a good number of years, and we'd a good relationship. He said, all right, yeah, with the tasks that come up, the challenges ahead of us, we'd sometimes, but we always managed to get solutions all the time. Right. And the first thing I test with somebody is in management, a sniff at a mile. For some folk, or anti-trade union, maybe we're the creatures of the Black Lagoon.
Aye.
But we're actually no, we're just ordinary people doing my job who want to be respected and appreciated.
You want to be listened to. If you've got a valid point, you want to be listened to. That's not to say you'll get what you want. But people, and that's what, but taking it back to the Caverna days, didn't know what you says to Caverna. I remember, you've probably come on to it now, we went to Caverna and we asked them for things that we would class as basic, which was like amenities, and the toilets revamped, and locker rooms and whatever. And they looked at you as if you'd no right to ask it, and they're going, we're not asking for a disco or you know what I mean?
Well, the thing was, I mean, let me hit you with a big point I'm going to make. I'm going to make a statement. I thought it, I began to understand it and form an opinion a few months after B Systems that they'd be good for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
No utopia, it'd be good for us. See the day I left 15 years and retired later, I stood by that.
Still felt the same.
They were still good for us. Why?
And there was a lot of change of management between then.
Etc. Because the first thing I always say about a place, etc. Are the anti-trade union because they're going to have big battles all the time. They were very different, etc. Right? They were very. They certainly weren't the anti-trade unions. Indeed, they involved you a lot. Going to countries, they would open up a lot more with you, etc. And I think they passed the test at that time. When they came in at that time, is see if I get the feeling that they accept the principle that the most important assets, the workers, we go on fine.
Yes.
And I didn't experience anything other than that for them.
No.
I mean, even their chief executive, can I tell you a bit of story about him? Because we were on a short time, and some of the people for B Systems, some of the senior people came, spoke to me and says, what can we do, Jamie, to bring the workers on board and all that? I says, what do you mean? They went, how can we get a closer bond? I says, well, can I give you a list? They went, yeah, here's a list, no problem. I says, see the toilets, all our toilets across the yard. Caverna wouldn't even paint them. And the guy for the kind of services, this guy says, write all that down. I says, the amenity areas badly need done as well. He says, write that down. He says, toilets, amenities,
locker rooms,
and locker rooms. These things. He goes, would that be good? I went, absolutely. And he says, anything else? And I says, it's funny. I says, this is true. I said, Sky TV and the amenities. I was going to say, get a grip. And he said to me, okay. And I'm like, I'll pass that one there. He's winding him up. So that was a good thing. All the facilities getting done. And next day, I think it was Tommy Vaughan.
Oh, you Tommy done
one
maintenance,
of the maintenance managers or something. He says, Jamie, I have to go out and get this and that. You've got me a ton of work, by the way. I've got to get people to do the toilets. It says, Sky TV. He says, you asked for Sky TV, aye? And by the way, they gave us Sky TV.
They've still got it.
And we've still got it.
Still got it, aye.
So that was a good start.
You cut in the amenities now, for our time back in the 70s and 80s, 90s. It's a completely different one. They've got air fryers. I had the wee boys saying weeks back, and there's no hand cream. You're going, hand cream.
You went for a Caverna who were non-managed people, which should have been. And I also learned, I'll be quite honest with you, people can say I'm sucking up with the want to, and they were sucked up during my life, by the way. I think these systems were generally respectful to the workforce. And I found that out when I went to the big conferences with other sites. I never sensed, I'm not saying it's perfect utopia, it can't be. It's like, but you go there with people, I mean, you want your business to be successful all the time. I never really heard any complaints, or you say this and that, etc. But there was no fundamental conflict about trying to be successful for the business.
I'm trying to think. I left in 2008, so you're talking between 2000 and 2008. I can't remember any major conflicts between the management unions.
No.
They had conflict.
So lucky you've got B Systems who are, and they also introduced something they did before. Let me tell you, that was the pin I was forming, and the guys were settling down. But come through the prep area one day, and a handful of guys stopped us for a wee, how's it going, Jamie? What's going on here, there? And about six of them, and one of them was a tricky customer, as you probably know. I says, what's the stories? And this guy said, B Systems are shite. that they're worse than Caverna.
No.
Now, I laughed, but that was it. I don't know, it was amazement. Well, I said, you're having a joke. And the guys were saying, see what Jamie says. I says, we're better than Caverna. I says, no, it's Sherwin, it's all done. It's the Sky TV. No, it's they've got share scheme now, and we get shares every year.
Aye.
It's turned out to be quite a lot of money. I says, that's just the start. You get days if you move house and all that. I says,
if you take shares now, if you take the maximum amount of shares, which I think's £150 a month, they'll give you £90 worth of shares free to add to your 150, which is a good deal.
Well, I mean, a lot of folk kept it to the retired or for holidays. They did it for everything. I says, are you still going to say to me in a straight face they were better? And he just went, duck, and he walked away.
You'll never please everybody, you know that.
It's like, I know that, but it was a lesson. And then obviously we've got we're meeting Scots and a lot together, obviously collectively. And
I don't think that would be. I just remember I was in QC at the time and I had to go over to Scots and I always found that there was this glass barrier between everybody. I went over with Ian Johnson to help out in Scotland for the quality. And I don't mention the manager's name, and I went to speak to him. I went and looked at a job and I had reported some odds and ends to be done on it. And I walked over and he was sitting at his desk writing and I stood there to let him finish. And he looked up and his first words out of his mouth is, "The fuck are you want?" That was his.
aye.
I said, "Well, that's charming."
Aye.
I says, there's a defect, let's see. No, I'm not taking it. And there was an he's not there anymore. This guy. There's an arrogance about them.
Well, I mean, everybody wants the best and leaders such like, and we had to remember we were new day naval ships. The Arrows had a historic business.
They've got a lot more.
They knew the customer big time.
Yes.
That's a big start. They knew the customer. But we were colleagues as well.
The biggest problem we've had it for you. I found it when I left Scots Marine when it shut in 79. I had to go to Yaris to finish my time. There was about 120 apprentices. We had to go there. And the thing that we found different, because I was working in Scots Marine where decks and shells and whatever you, bulkheads were all 10 and 12 and 15 mils, and it was all electrodes in. See, when they went to Yaris, it was 4 and 5. You were welding along, and because you're used to putting the juice up, you were blowing through it. And don't get me wrong, the gaffers are gone mental, and I don't blame them.
It was different, but maybe I was looking for utopia, but because we still didn't know how we were going to form, how we would evolve as such like. But I had this kind of idealistic scenario is we'll be good at seal work. They're good at the outfitting. They know the customer. So you put it together and you've got good teamwork.
Yep.
It's a bit like he's a defender on the football team. He's good in there and all that, etc. But of course, you've got everybody's still worried about changing that, etc. Right? But we still had to get the orders as such like.
Oh yeah.
And the Type 45 contract was coming out. And remember we spoke about Caverna being baddies, but we did agree. The fact was they did.
They brought a lot of improvements and
the investments. I mean,
I wouldn't actually say they're baddies. I didn't like the management style. I didn't like the way they spoke to you, the way they dealt with you. You were just a number to them.
Aye.
You think back to the early days when we had the likes of Bill Gallagher and Eric Mackey and we had guys like Willie Little and Archie Miller and all these kind of people. They had a bit of empathy when they spoke to you. If you had a personal problem, you went and spoke to them. And the regions didn't. They just disregarded you as a number.
Well, they obviously built the Expo and the hydraulics for it and the Versa. I acknowledge that. So I said, well, steelwork will be well in for the Type 45s. And we said that goes, etc. So what the other thing is the most difficult is that the company were reevaluating the labour balance. And it was going to require some employees for Scotland to come to govern permanently.
Oh, I thought we were talking about redundancies.
No, permanently. And vice versa. If you've worked in Scotland for 15, 20, 30 years.
It's an upheaval.
It's an upheaval. It's already kidney swank, by the way, but and then so base sites, so people can have to govern. Despondent, sometimes rebellious. It's like in base sites, I don't want to be here. I mean, you don't want that kind of climate, but trying to say, look, things will settle down. It's like people come and say, oh, I want to stay here. I say, the business has changed, there's a balance. It just so happened that mainly we got outfitters there, just the way the ships were going to get built.
Yes.
etc. And so we get some seals, we get some of your seal workers there. So we modelled by, of course, we didn't lose the main objective is the fact is that we had to get the contracts together. We need to find that balance of working together as such like.
But did we lose many people? I didn't think we lost many people, did we? And during the changeover, personnel-wise?
Well, you talk about bodies.
Yes.
Yeah, what happened just was another time I get myself into hot water, if that's right. Remember, they'd
cancelled. That's a few times you get yourself hot water.
I know that, etc. That's the nature of the
nature of the beast.
etc. The day of re-evaluation, the whole workload, these people in planning, etc. Projects are way above me, but sometimes I've got a common knowledge we need here and there. You're working on this all your life, and there was still going to be 114 redundancies. And of course, I heard that. The media phoned me and told me, and I was raging, by the way.
No, because it's all
I'm
common
saying-
decency to sit down and speak to you.
They're 114 had done this season. We've never been told. So I'm storming along the corridor. Oh, guns blazing, etc. And etc. And Tony Williams comes out. Said, Jamie, is that you? Chatting along that corridor, a man demented, etc. Dare I say it, foul language, not. After that, he says, no, you behave yourself, Jamie. They done this. And I says to him, they were starting to put the guys into the office, aren't they? The ones that were identified. I mean, I lost all rationale there. I told you, I'm not known for me. I'm usually a cool, calm, logical person. And I said, I'm going to get in Syria, guys. And somebody just says, Jamie, that's not a good idea. He said,
Is this guys that they'd
the
identified?
guys that were identified, they're in a sunken ship now, and you're going to get in there. And they're going to vent that maybe in you, how we get picked up again. So against my will, I did it. And Tony Williams says, they told us not to do it. And of course, he was absolutely right. I just wasn't prepared for it.
They're getting you dogs abuse.
But I felt guys that I knew for a while get made redundant. Oh, there's Jamie hiding away in the wee corner, doesn't want to speak to us. And I said, no, I don't want to experience that guilt factor. So I went in to see them. Some of them were fine. He said to her, they were okay. They went, Jamie, we were. He said to her, you can't pick me. He said to her,
I mean, I remember they were starting to hand out letters when we were all working down an in-screen. We had a ship down an in-screen, and it was Govan and Scotland. And Alan Curran had phoned me the night before.
Aye.
And you know Alan as well as me. And Alan said, Ralph, this letter's getting good out tomorrow. He said, don't worry about it, you're no one of them. And that isn't, I don't mean that isn't what I wanted to hear.
Aye.
And I says, all right. So when I walked in and they were handing the guy, it was a gaffer set today, and I thought it was quite, I don't know, what would you call it? It was quite sparse how they do it. There was no, they'd look and go, where's Jamie? So anybody got a fat letter, as soon as you knew it was a fat letter, you were gone because you had to fill the bump in. And what got me when I looked about, there was a big young guy standing in tears. He was married with 2 kids. For years I didn't know his name or anything, and he stood and he was in tears. And for what I looked about and asked about, the people that were chosen were the weak. Not weak at their work, weak personalities. And I've always, same as yourself, I've always been a strong personality. I'll speak up for myself. Maybe that's why I didn't get picked. I don't know. But I don't think that's right. If you're going to get rid of people and it's a necessity, you get rid of them for the right reason.
But as I say, some of them exploded and they did start.
I don't blame them.
The thing in there. And I just took there. Yes, I did how we put you get along there and that again. I felt hopeless, useless.
There's nothing you can say.
I made a bad call. But I did it for the right reason.
I'd like to think that the called light a day, a week, or a month, or a year later, they'd go, well, at least he came in and didn't go running for cover.
So the guys went, and that was just another thing. We move on to the working together with the type 45s, Ralph.
I was on the 45s.
Yes.
I was only on the 45s for. I was day shift for a couple of years as a gaffer working with Davy Riley, which was a chore in itself. And then I went night shift.
And so we're obviously building the units then they're going to for assembly at the time. So it was a dare I say, it was a period of I wouldn't say serenity, but we were settling into the business with the contracts to look forward to such like. And then basically the world changed, etc. And this is me really get the challenges and etc. Because what starts to come in the horizon and the big challenges here, the carriers.
Aye. I left before the carriers. I think they might have just started them. I left.
The 2 carriers, which massive contract.
Massive job.
And Prestige contract, I say, in Rosyth, Clyde Canny launch aircraft carriers. Rosyth's going to be the final place altogether. So I was like, as long as we get a bit of the cake, a nice big bit of the cake, I knew we would with the steelwork. Yeah, I was saying we'll be okay, and the guy, so our outfitters can work the units, etc. And then the Ides of March came upon, and I heard the word. I went, they're going to have to transfer a lot of people up to the side. And they didn't beat behind the bush, etc. Right? they paid, but people would be working up there could be 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
I'm saying, I'm actually doing mathematics in my head, etc. Right? And I'm saying to myself, right, they need guys. I says, and I'm not beating behind the bush here. I say to myself, see how they said the size final assembly, we can't change that. That will be our job.
We couldn't do the link-up. We could do the blocks. We couldn't do the link-ups.
But no, we had to go and put them together.
Aye.
And that was a strong point. So we were going to have to go because the work would be slacking. Didn't govern. You'd hit it. And I'm saying, to myself, steel workers. And I was doing those figures, especially steel workers, because I was a steel worker, but in the general population as well. And here it was folk for the office, it's out of the place, everybody.
The planners and
but anyway,
design and drawing office, everybody went.
Obviously, this is my first thinking. I'm like, I said, we've got to get numbers and all that. This before, and I thought, right, how, I don't want a big fight with them. I don't want to say to them, we're not going to the side. I knew that would be catastrophic, by the way. Catastrophic. He said, for us, it'd be suicide. So I'm saying to myself, right, who'll go? The ham bandits, so-called. I says, yep. And I'm running through the numbers. The ones that they would work the moment silence. I said, there's quite a lot of them. Right, so I said, that's a good starting point. We'll go up, Jamie. How long for? 5 years. Travelling under the law, he said. I said, that's good. I says, and then but I sat rationalised it a bit. I said, no, we are good at solving problems. And we always take a realistic scenario. And I said, I'll need to be rotation at a time. And everybody's going to take their turn. This is me simplifying it. So then the grapevine starts up. Oh, the rumours, everybody's telling stories, etc. My head's busting. Jamie, what about this? I says, I don't really know this yet. And then we start to get the numbers, etc. Right? And people are saying, we're going to negotiate a deal. I must admit, by the way, months and months we try to get a deal fixed, etc. And I'm saying, and first of all, I'm saying to the guys quite clearly, right, and I like to be diplomatic with the workforce. I think I was respectful, but sometimes I'm not shrinking violet. I stand my ground and tell people what I think. The truth it will be, in my view, etc. And I hope that they believe and trust me. People give me suggestions, I'll listen. And I said, but I made it quite clear, guys, this isn't a request for us to go up there. We need to construct something.
It's a demand. We've got to go.
We're going as such like. And, there was rumbles and jumbles and then sort of, there's always ones that go over the top a bit. This guy says, this is what you have to listen to sometimes, etc. I'm no gone. They can't make me. I says, what's what you're saying? They can't make you. Can you try and get volunteers first like I can? He said, I'm not going to, they take me from my family all the time and my way home. I says, how you living up there? He went, I said, it's only 45 minutes or an hour and the thing. I said, everybody laughed a wee bit and said like I carry on. And what about people who've got problems with families? If people get problems with families, childcare, and that sort of stuff, that will get looked at with HR. And with individual, and I'll speak to the company. We'll not be press ganging everything in their granny, but we want to do it so that it's balanced as such like. So we're starting to put the feelers out for the numbers, and it was quite good because our trusty steeds, that the ham bandits are beginning to suffer from. I'm saying, surprised to see you here. You know the culprits' names, but I'm saying, bring it on. If you want volunteers, etc., you can only have too many volunteers. That's no problem. Too little it is.
What kind of deal did they get? I was away.
Well, I can't maybe specific. It was a good deal.
Right.
It was
because there was nobody staying there. They got travelling time.
But wait to tell you a laugh. I'm saying to myself, we did get him a good deal. You could in the yard and somebody hearing this and was saying the deal was rubbish. But so anyway, the first group got up with the pioneers. And the agreement was that the two conveners in Scots and Govan, they would do 3 months each every year. Myself, Billy, and the two, John Dolan and Duncan for Scotsman.
Yeah.
Because you need juniors up there, got lots of guys up there. So anyway, the first batch of guys got, we said, for sort of their period for 3 months, whatever you said, right? And
don't tell me they didn't want to come back.
No, as soon as they get the first pie slip, I heard through the grapevine, Jamie,
you'll stay.
They're going to tell you, it's hard going, it's very difficult, but we will make the commitment for the best of mankind. I don't mind signing up here. And then the ones down there begin to say, nobody get a few drinks in them. The guys outside peeling off the notes, etc.
A lot of guys, like Tam Gray used to run a bus.
Aye.
Tam stayed in Bishopton, and Tam used to get a bus that came from there. And he organised it. And what they were getting for travelling money, obviously. And it was a case, if you miss the bus, you miss the bus. But the bus would pick them up every day and take them up there and
You only
bring
worked
them
4
back.
days because it was a longer day. That was an appeal as well. But they would work overtime as well and that.
Aye.
A lot of them are making good poppy. Good luck to them, by the way. But then again, some of the ones in there begin to say, green cheese, I want a bit.
Aye, I want
And
to
of
go
course,
for it. Aye.
then the numbers begin to swell. The numbers begin to
You've
swell.
got too many in the list.
And who appeared at the door? The wee guy nearly tried to cause it a plater.
Didn't want to go.
Tried to cause and you saw me and he didn't want me to stay because he was going to see his own stop here. I just stood there. And then he says, I want to go to the side.
If you fail out your family.
And I looked there and says, have you overcome the domestic problems and etc.? No, I wouldn't speak to each other, I wouldn't listen. So I called you bluffing, but I says, have you still got a problem? I'll take your land right now. I called you bluffing. No, I'm just going to go. So, boy, I'm talking about it lightly. It was a difficult task, but eventually we settled into a great rhythm, by the way, between Governor Scots and etc. The guys up and come down, they go to their turn and such like. Some of the older guys, then they want to go, that's fine. We never had to
Push
Shanghai MD.
Aye, which is good.
And some of them were, some were.
How long did that go for? And I'm trying to remember when I come back to, well, I was away for 12 years, so I think the Carriers must have Carriers just left in about 2018, 19, is that right?
Aye, but you've got to remember that we did with up there. We had planners, obviously, and they were still up there. I'd forgot who they were, but they were up there for ages and ages and ages. But, of course, the other thing that was good up there was although we landed at the side, and it was fine up the side, the guys up there, and it was pretty okay, there was no problem, etc. Right? But with quite a lot of the Clyde management up there, quite a lot of Clyde management, Jerry and a few of the managers, that makes you feel a wee bit home for home.
Yes.
Such like, so that gave us a really good contract and a lot of work.
And I didn't work on it, but I would say that's one of the biggest shipbuilding achievements that I've seen in my lifetime, building these ships, the size of them, the complexity of them. Within that time scale, building blocks here, there and everywhere and getting them up and then assembling them up at the scythe. It must have been a massive, massive task to get pull everything together.
And you had your teething problems, obviously, right?
Oh, of course, you always do.
I mean, because you know, got a couple of dozen guys, it was hundreds that were up there. So it was quite big numbers. And then, I mean, obviously, you actually had to, I think the company maybe, they would come and say to me, well, the 4 conveners would talk to each other, and you were taking it up to the last convener, he'd come and tell you what was happening. So it wasn't utopia, but it was working well. I told you, but knowing the management a bit, you can have a bit of dialogue. And I think we're guys.
I'm saying that I can't recall any sort of conflict that reached the papers, which caused mayhem, which held back boats.
No.
I didn't think that we had anything that was detrimental to the contract.
No, and when you're up there, you get teething problems like holidays. They have different holiday weekends. For us, but there were teething problems. But you were kind of
They were flexible.
The science people up there were okay with us.
Aye, they're flexible.
Just going back to the other side of the business again, which was interesting, was getting to know who are B systems really, what they're about. I told you that they had these conferences where the chief people, the head people of the company, remember, first biggest defence company in the world, by the way, massive company, B system, that you would go there, all the sites, and you could read anything. And the chief executive officer was a guy called Mike Turner.
Ah, yeah, you gave me a comment. I said mention Mike Turner.
Yeah, he's the chief, and he was lots of things, colourful. That's one word. But in actual fact, she's chief executive. Sometimes they're a wee bit sort of
Snooty.
distant from the shop floor. And somebody says, Jamie, he came to the shop floor, which was basically unheard of to come through that, etc. But you go to meetings. I was actually astonished. He's got this gigantic company, by the way, aerospace, shipbuilding, land, etc. And he was rhyme off how the businesses were all going.
You talk his game, aye?
No, to find detail, I went, he's got some memory why he can bring them up. And of course, you were allowed to ask questions, and he was, when he suffered fools gladly, but he was utterly down to earth. Such like, so one of the laughs was that when you got to know him, obviously, but because you were dealing with him sometimes, and he says to his, at the conference, the media, obviously, if you're dealing with him, etc., if you want to know any hints, you go up to Clyde there, see Jamie, he's got the contacts to make sure everyone's gone right, etc., you know. So this was funny. We heard this day that he was coming up to govern. Mike Turner, his entourage. I went, that'll be interesting. So here he was coming up, and somebody gave me the hint. He's up with 5 or 6 guys, and it's the middle of winter. And they were done up with big hats and
mufflers and jackets.
as if they were in the North Pole. It wasn't quite that, but it was your usual weather. So anyway, they come up, and 6 of them together. And I didn't. I was just there, but happened to be there. And of course, he caught a glimpse of me. And he went, Jamie, because he knew me, this guy's personally. He said, and he converted in. And they were all shivering and shaking. I went, is that 6 wee pussycats you brought up the fairy space? He went, 6 what? I said, 6 wee pussycats. Look at them shaking in the corner and that. I said, strong men of Clyde here. And I kid you not, I'd love to have seen this in video, right? And he's supposed to manager there. In the shed, the guys are all looking about. Senior management in the shed are all looking about. And he comes out to me and he grabs me. So chief executive and a headlock, right? Also, you say pussycats. No, he was doing kind of dummy one, and all the audience, they were all looking. What is that? It was a fight laughing. And he jumped up laughing and like I mean, that's how down to earth he was.
That's unusual.
So, I mean,
you normally get a distance between them.
Really, you know, see ones like that, but he was very, very, very down to earth. He said that. When he suffered fools gladly, by the way, but that experience of come to the show player and knowing it. You know, a lot of folk go to high places, and what's your granny used to say? They forget their old asses.
They forget what they came for.
He said, I know. So that was good stuff. There, you know.
So now we're venturing into we've got over all the turmoil, and we've got into the contracts, and we're on the carrier, and we've already started the 45s. You're starting to look then to say, is it time for me to go?
Aye.
Time to retire. Now you would be what then? Around about 2000 and say...
I was retired end of 2015.
15, I thought it was 14.
Aye. Said, I'll be quite honest with you that...
You had enough?
I was tired.
Aye.
The accumulation all the time. He said, right, it's always challenge. I like a challenge. I don't like, I like being busy anywhere. The nature of the beast is such like, but I was finding out that, see all the different episodes of doing it. There's a lot of people think there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure, responsibility of doing things right and 20.
Well, you're trying to speak up for a couple of thousand people. You've got to make a right choice.
And remember when a couple of times he said, all right, she just needed time when we were getting we were trying to get the owner of such like after one of the meetings back in the stair. I felt as if I was on fire. My whole body was on fire. And that was one of the meetings that we had with Donald Jew, remember I told you, when we were intent to try to get the owner. And he was sitting there with John Reid next to him. And I kept saying to myself, leader of the country, inspire me, motivate me, help me. And it was just nothing. And I lost it a wee bit, and I went like that. Look, tell us happened. If you're going to tell us the truth, we're going to go under. Please be honest with you. I said, because I don't like your kind of tone. I was ready to go from, but I was ready to start casting up all the things I'd been doing. And John Reid was sitting there, and he went, Jamie, he get me off the hook, by the way.
You looked a wee kind of wasp, a wee kind of hardy.
Should be hard, a wee guy. If you can imagine, a smart man, by the way. Said, I knew the score time of day, very smart guy. Spade's a spade. The kind of people I like regarding that. He said, right. But I saw it was going to be a turn. And some of the big union ones were sitting there watching me struggling, and I think probably enjoying it. You know, that was struggling a wee bit. And John says, Jamie, were you doing it in London? And this is a week before we're going to shut. you didn't at London meet me and Gus. I went, aye. What did we tell you last week, Jamie? That you would give if it took to the last minute to get you a new order. Is that right? We told you, Jamie. I went, yeah. I says, we asked you, do you trust us that we'll do that? What did you say, Jamie? I said, yes. Yes. So I told him I trusted him, so I did trust him. He said that, and
to back down to the gubbin.
And he got me off it, but when I came down the stair there, I was, the place was that bad that the media went, Jamie, you all right? Because I was absolutely, I was fleeing it, and they said, you sit there for 10 minutes, you calm down. And Jai and Johnny were waiting for us, etc. Jai and Joe were waiting for me.
Aye.
So I saw them, etc. But then in my interview, they said, are you sure you want to do an interview, Jamie? You don't look
it's
well.
close after.
So by the way, I did the interview, and then Isabel phoned me, and I called my family saying, you don't look well, no usual boisterous, etc. And I knew then, you can only recharge a battery
so
often. So I sort of decided that I would go. I think Tony asked me to maybe stay on for a year beyond that, but I always wanted to leave it kind of the right time, if that's it.
You're saying about Tony Williams. I kick myself now and again. I'd left and I was working away, and I come home and leave, and I was out for a walk. I was out walking out the back end of Bearsden, and he did stay in Roman Road in a flat there. But when I knew him years back, I didn't have the old Grizzly Adams. And I was out walking with earphones on, and this guy came out the wee block of flats with a dog. He walked past, and I seen him looking, I went, Tony Williams. And I was solely tempted to go back and see him, because I knew him personally for Barrow. It's not as if I just knew who he was.
Uh-huh.
And I never stopped. I kept walking. I says, I got to the point, I said, he's liable to go, I don't know you, mate, who are you? Because this would be 6, 7, 8 years since I left. I hadn't seen him for a long period. Man, I bumped into him a few times out in Bearsden, guy, and he was out for a meal with his girlfriend when I was going out for a meal, and he'd say hello, maybe. Very plausible, very, very amicable guy. Man, a quick story about before we go. I didn't know how his management theory worked in it. I was working with QC, and he took me in a meeting one day, and they're all bringing everybody in to ask him what the progress was. He says to me, you sit there. So I sat on his right-hand side. And he go in the room. Where are you with this job? I'll be finished on Monday. Where are you with this job? Right round the whole table, and then he says to me, in front of everybody, point out who's lying. I shit myself. I'm going to have to say, because I'd walked to jobs, that was my job. And I had to go, like Joe McKinney, and I said, Joe's not going to be Wednesday, it'll be Friday for us done. So he then used that as a springboard to them off pelters. So after that, Joe, or a big Alistair Ramage, and I got on Gary, and Alistair would come and say, I'm going to say Wednesday at the meeting, but I'll not be ready at Friday. And I said, that's fine, as long as you're ready. But that was his management trait. He would use you as the springboard.
Aye.
But I found him very, very fair and very honest.
One of the things that was interesting as well is after we had doing it a while, a few months, he said there was a big rally at Glasgow Green. And there with the stewards and that could care on you, because a lot of speakers at it. I was one of them talking about the campaign and such like, and somebody taps in the back, I turned in, it was one of them, was the task force. Remember I told you it was the two ministers, two civil servants. It was another guy, I forget his name, but he was a big a businessman. He was Scottish, but he'd worked in Canada a lot of time. He was there for his business knowledge and such like. So he was with his wife, and he came up to see me. He went, we never get a chance to when we get you go to the owner to try and see you for a while. I'm great, we bumped into you today and that could carry on. He says, it was a pleasure to work with the unions for a good cause, for a good yard. And I'm sure you'll do well and all that. He says, can I ask you one question? And I went, aye, that's okay. He says, does it ever occur to you when you were doing the media stuff that the media can be very fickle? Very fickle.
Oh, you know that, aye?
It's like, today's friends, tomorrow catch you at the wind. He says, if you never realised at any stage along all you're dealing with them, they could have taken you and crushed you just like
that. They turned it upside down.
And I said, I knew that. And he said, you still done it. Why? I says, desperate times require desperate measures. He said, and it worked. He said, and I'll tell you, the media made a major part.
They did play a big part
in that campaign.
That's why I asked you the last time, because you weren't in the limelight for the limelight.
No.
You're in the limelight to get the backing of the media, because the media, everybody listens to the media, everybody sees the media, everybody reads the media. So you needed to get the backing of them to keep the campaign going. And I asked before, and you were right, that some of the other stewards might have felt they were in the shadows, they were in the background. But I'd like to think that they realised it was done for the greater good. It wasn't done for, oh, it's a Jamie Webster show, I'm here to be on the telly every night, I'm here to be in the papers every day.
I'd like to think that was a small minority. I mean, the bottom line is you want to get your voice heard.
Yes.
You said to convince people and media take a shine, they can win the public opinion of your voice. You want to say something, government saying something else. You can actually get a chance to present yourself at it, you know. So that was an important thing. One of the things now that obviously before we're finished, like we said, is the fact is that when I left the year that day, obviously it was a happy, sad day, happy to start spending time with my family, a lot more, but I knew that I'd never escape. And I said to the workforce the day I retired, I'll always support this business, this industry, if I live to 100. And I'll speak up for them. And I want them to do well. I was full of joy when they get that big order, by the way. I thought I was still the convener. But I just thought it was great for them. But the one thing I have reservations about is, at the present time, is, remember I said that thing, the workers are your most important asset. I'm not saying base systems don't believe that right now, but I hope the people still going amongst ordinary people and the people in the industry. See, when I was in the industry, I knew the background, and I found out the working and people in the industry before, and I thought, I've got a heritage. Sounds cheesy, it's no.
No.
They came before us and did it. I mean, I'm not just saying this, but back to 71, unless there was the working, I'd never saw the shipyards. If we had the day things. But see, all the ones that have started since 2000, 26 years ago, none of them would have been in.
Well, funny enough, I went over to the academy on Tuesday. Harry McCluskey's daughter works in there. She asked me, I went over last year, and she asked me to go and speak to the apprentices. And last year there was a lot of adult apprentices. Some of them were 28, 29, 30, which is good in a way because they've got a work ethic, they've been at work, they may have worked in Asda, but they know about getting to work time and having to work and turning up and all the rest of it. But this one that was mostly just young apprentices that looked between the 16, 17, 18. And you think back, Jamie, to 80s and 90s, when a group of apprentices come down the yard, you'd say, what's your name? Webster. You in today with Jamie Webster? That's my dad, that's my granddad, that's my uncle. I asked at the academy last week, is there anybody here get any shipbuilding people and their family that's either still in the yards or did work in the yards? And about 4 or 5 people put their hand up. Well, it used to be 90% and put their hand up.
In their recruitment thing, and their sort of, when you go the first day, you should get told about it. There was one thing I forgot to mention, and I don't know why, because it actually was a big thing. Remember, we were collectively, there was us, Barrows, who were submarines, nuclear. They had a licence for lifetime.
Yes.
We said Governor Scotland, and there was Southampton in there. And then there came this, well, it actually happened, he said that they were looking at the shipbuilding structure. And I went, oh no, here we go again.
Going to cut us.
It usually means rationalisation and such like.
Cutbacks.
And then this was a tricky time where I had to keep a lot of thoughts to myself. Not to the workforce, because sometimes you don't want to upset them. It's no keeping back from them. It's saying, don't worry them unless I've got something to worry about. And then the story was it was going to be cutbacks, and it was going to be Clyde that was affected. And Govan, probably Scots as well, but certainly I'm talking about Govan. And I was worried about that, and I went like that, Ports, Southampton, and I was worried because MOD's down there.
Aye, they're closer to home.
Customers down there, they've got that in Portsmouth, they've got a historical background there. And I said to myself, we're an outsider, we're good, but unless we can say to somebody, give me a trial, put me on the park, I'll score goals, I'll defend, unless you get the opportunity, you can't prove it. But I said, I'm not going to go and say to the workforce, we're dodgy again, because they might be fall back a bit and do it. I had to keep them working and keep my fears to myself. And then as it got up, plus Southampton were asked to engage in Rosyth.
They said no.
And they said no.
Probably put a nail in their coffin.
And I said to myself,
you could be safe.
I said to myself, I wanted us all to be happy, Johnson's Baines, but at the end of the day, you get into the ring with your own team.
Well, you're back.
But I'm saying the base systems have expectations of you, right? And he says when they go into Rosyth, I don't know what happened behind the scenes there, but I think maybe they were a bit concerned with the company. But no, remember they says you're going to Rosyth. I'm saying, well, okay, let's get it right. But that's not the same as saying no. And of course, you met the MOD ones I met up there. You paint a picture and they start making decisions. And then I'm saying to myself, as it gets nearer the time, leaks get out somehow all the time.
Oh, they always do, aye.
And I'm talking about days before it, and I was very concerned. Yet I kept saying to myself, they took us there a few years ago.
Oh, they've invested
Said
in
that
us.
right. But Evan, remember I told their office, we'll no be bit players, be system. We'll be star players. I said, we'll be star players. And I thought, it may think I'm quite arrogant there. And he went, keep on. Maybe that same director come back. A big senior guy came to see me 18 months later and went like that. How you doing, Jamie? I says, fine. He says, just to tell you, the yard, we're happy what's happening here, we're hearing good reports, keep it going. And I'm saying, well, we did keep it going, we kept it going. We'll maybe come out of this good. I'm saying to myself, we get out we won it, somebody else loses it, but at that time, you're playing for your team. And then, of course, the news came out that day that Southampton was shutting, etc. Right, the guys in there, and I felt for them, obviously, but I'd be lying if I wasn't saying, whew,
and that's what I know.
And then the Southampton media got into me. The Southampton media's got into me. Because obviously, near the end, near the decision time, they begin to hear, all is not well. You're no John Short. You're no Southampton. Isn't it totally safe that you're not John Short? They come and says, how did you, well, obviously, how do you feel about Southampton shutting? I says, how do I feel about Enda getting a job, losing a job? I'm going to say, losing a job. Why would I own that, etc.? Empty job, losing a job, income, families, I'm a human being, I know that. I says, but my job in the union is what Pierre's job is to try and be the best. Yes. That's ambition, to be the best. To do it all the time. I says, I wasn't responsible for that decision. What did you do? They don't do. I says, yes, chance to company.
Oh, yeah, see that.
But that was another near one. So now we've got lots of work, but I just hope that, that common touch that we had in government, that unity of thought, because I'm a bit concerned when you hear a lot of guys retiring and they're no guys that worked there 40 odd years. And they felt they left with nothing, no recognition for the company. So it's like maybe a wee bit here and there. And
wee Winker left, Brian Boyle left the other week. They both of them, the wee Winker done 46, 47 years. Brian done the same.
I felt terrible for that. These are guys, God's sake, man, my apprentices, and they had a whole lifetime. The contribution is, they were everything I wanted to represent, and they were the guys that we needed. And they left saying to me, it's not the same, Jamie. We've lost that personal touch.
Oh, we have lost personal touch.
That. And what they're finding now is they're finding it difficult. The young ones that come in now, when I say young, I mean teens, 20s, and maybe even 30s.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to get them to take up union positions.
No. Joe Irvin's done it and Joe's in his 50s.
I'm talking when I was young, 60s and 70s, and remember I realised the unions are the goodies. They might not be the baddies, but we're definitely the goodies. You said that right, and always the unions to be no rabble rousers, people who are fighting for rights, but they understand the companies have got to do well. Middle of the road on that. You said that right, but they're finding it hard to get people to take positions up in the unions. That could have alarming consequences. Every business, every football team needs a succession plan.
Of course.
I mean, a football team, you're winning the league and you go to sleep, somebody's
taking over.
I've got a funny feeling they've got a succession plan, the company, but it might not be ticking the right boxes and listening to the right people. He said, I know there's a lot of people who've retired now. I know what I'd be doing. I'd be saying to them, you want to come in and work for a couple of days at the training and talk to my young folk?
Been spoke about.
I'd be doing there, speaking about it. I'd be doing something about it. To see some of the guys that are away, you know that they might be fine with a pension. You know their commitment to the heirs that much, they would come and do it for that. I'd like to think that happening. If it doesn't ever going to change dimensions, why would you drop off your concentration your best asset.
That's what we are. Well, Jamie, we've now spent another hour and a half. This has been an absolute joy. Oh, do we?
Yeah, you said 10 minutes.
All right.
I was coming up to keep the
All right, okay. Because we can cut that bit out then and I'll carry on. Because I want to ask you about Ali Bagay. I've been wanting to get that sorted out. So once we get back on again, I'll ask you.
Right, so we get back to the
So,
times, etc.
So
I'm sorry if I some people might think I'm a dull, boring guy, etc., but I've actually got quite a good sense of humour in the right place.
But what I wanted to remember, I can't remember where it came from. I remember, I don't know why I was asked to do the cartoon. I don't know, it was for a Norwegian. I can't remember what it was. And when I done it, I was drawn in, as you say, it was like a guy on a kind of like Pinocchio on a puppet.
I remember it vividly. First thing is just to remind everybody who was there who Ali Bagay was, his background, etc. It's great getting to know people, but here we have this guy in the Iranian, etc.
Persian, said he was Persian.
Persian, well, the new. You may be saying the Iranian just now, but no.
He used to say he was Persian.
He came anyway, right, etc. Right? Quite a cocky wee guy, that, etc. Right? And I mean, it's a big thing, culture coming to the yard, and that, etc. Right?
He was abrupt, but he was straight to the point.
But it shows how you can change your opinion of somebody. You can start dodgy and light and then really like. Sometimes you can start really light and no so light and then don't like. In reverse. But when it first came out first, I got the impression is that he liked to, probably a bit insecurity. I don't mean that, he's a smart guy, obviously, right? But you come to a new culture, you want to put your mark down. And so he would try to showcase quite a lot of such like, but
well, his nickname became Al Baggy.
Al Baggy,
he had everybody frightened that he was going to get paid off.
You get a name. I mean, Mick gave him Al Baggy,
Aye.
And Mick gave somebody else Mick Fishelson. I mean, that's the stuff I love, the funny stuff. Everybody tells you the yards, oh, the joy, the fun that they can. But anyway, getting to know him, okay, right? And you want to build trust in a relationship, that's etc. So having to meet me on one day, I'll talk about your one in a minute, okay, right? It was involved, but anyway, because this was before, he was talking about something, and I said to him, my granny could do that. You know how that's your kind of dialogue. It doesn't mean anything. It means it's dead simple.
Anybody
but see, in their culture, old means to be revered. Why is it wisdom comes from older people? They've got almost a worship one. The older you are, the more worship. He says, your granny, and he says to me, your granny must be a very smart. I'm cracking a joke to him, he's not getting that.
You've missed a point,
So that's it. So we move on a few months and we go to a meeting with some of the senior management unions, and we were having a disagreement or something.
I don't believe that.
So we're having a disagreement, somebody else said, right? And I could see that was irritating him. I wasn't trying to irritate him, but he was saying something, and I said, no, that's a bad call you're making, or something like. And then he turned and says to me, he's in front of the senior managers, Jamie, now you talk about your granny. He says, and he said it with a straight face, like, he says, I think I'll get my bra, you bring your granny in and she can replace you. And everybody laughed, obviously. And I said, I've got a better suggestion. So I said, I'll bring my granny in and replace you. And then he jumped back a bit. I was getting a bit too serious. So that's a bit, that was the one episode. But once I got to sort of know him a wee bit, you like, see when somebody comes to Govan and likes Govan, I almost like them.
Oh, aye.
So I can see you like Govan. I don't care what letters he likes Govan, we'll go on. We'll collectively come together. So I think I told you one day, he used to say to me, you just used to like to assert yourself. I went, that's okay. Jamie, when I call for you, we're going to do a morning walkabout in the yard and you will make yourself available. Fine, no problem whatsoever.
Aye.
I'll enjoy that. So doing the walkabout this morning, maybe he's not there a long time. He's only be well. And it was a kind of, probably a bit November, late November, so it's no totally light. It's by the time you start work, by the time you get lights about 8:30 or 9 o'clock, it's first thing in the morning, and there's guys in the double bottoms, sort of going into their job as such, like, and they were stoning. He went, Jamie, I'm not happy with some of your men over there. They're about maybe 20, 30 yards away. They're not at their work to start in time. I said, don't jump to conclusions, Ali. How? I said, they could be talking about anything. What do you mean? I says, getting their apparatus, getting down, talking their way through the job and that could carry on. Well, you should still get them. I says, I can make out what they're saying anyway. I can lip read that distance, and he didn't argue with me. I don't know why. I can lip read. He says, "What are they saying?" He's saying,
Who's that bastard looking at me?
I was actually going to say, there's that wee C. It could be character, it could be clipe,
Aye.
but that wee
Wasn't
C clocked us, by the way. We better get to work, and then we went to work. He goes, Jamie, you have to speak to them. So then we go to year one.
I can't remember what I was actually doing, and where it came from was I was drawing it, and as I went to colour in the wee face, I smudged it. And I'm not saying this in a racist way. He was sallow skin, so I smudged the face in. I says, and I gave it to you, and I went, you went, what's ideal? I'll take it.
So we were. It was with obviously Gabenna and the Norwegians. I'm Scottish, she's Iranian. Ooh, you know,
You've got a mixture.
United Nations, etc. But anyway, we're starting with him, and and I'd got you to do the cartoon.
Aye.
Just before he came, the manager was sitting, and I looked at him and went, "Oh my God!" I says, and somebody went, "Oh Jamie, what, you going to give him that?" Because I'd accused him of not having a sense of humour. He says, "I've got a sense of humour, Jamie, right?" So he says, "That was interesting, sense of humour." So obviously the cartoon was of
It was like
a wee guy
Pinocchio,
with-
somebody, I
Pinocchio,
remember it.
but it was kind of Asian sort of skin,
Yes.
and it had a wee hat like Noddy used to wear. Noddy kind of.
I like Pinocchio.
Pinocchio, that's what it was. And of course, you see him looking up, and there's this big stone face, dead stern kind
Which I
of face.
think was in the region.
Which was in the region, etc. And he's looking up and saying, "Am I doing okay?" You know, and they said, "You gain him that." So I said, "Well, test it." But anyway, so I say, "That's a wee gift for you." And take it in, he looks at it. He looked at it, and took it and threw it into the door, and didn't say anything, etc. Right? I'm like, "Oh." He said, a near one. I get back to the office about 10 minutes later. Secretary phone, "Jamie, you have to come along. All the guy wants to see you, by the way." So I went, "Oh," then I walk in sheepishly again, etc. And I just went to the desk, and he brings it in and says, "I'm nobody's puppet." I always remember that, by the way. But see, just the last part on it, see when he actually left, he went into Portsmouth working for the Australians.
Put a word in for us.
He was working for the Australian Navy or something. And I heard from very good sources, see when they're talking about carrying and etc. People saying that he was saying govern the place. So in actual fact, we converted him.
But you never finished the story there. You got his own back and you get me to do a cartoon of you.
Oh, I cartoon of me. Well, I must admit, and I'm usually very animated, too animated.
That's what it was. I had you in a straight jacket.
We'll put it this way, I knocked out Cokie, the treasurer, one day at a meeting. I was trying to emphasise something. Guys, and I didn't. Next minute you hear a big rumble, and poor Cokie's lying on the ground. I goes, "What happened there?" I went, you got him. You got a big kicker. You take him.
I mean, they sent for me, and I didn't know. I thought it was, I knew it was a cartoon, but I thought I was getting bothered. I said, "Fuck it, I go and see him." And when I tapped his door, I went, and I opened the door, and he was writing on a big whiteboard. And you know the way he spoke? He goes, "You fucking want?" No, that was his way he spoke. I said, "No, shoot, wants to see me. Here's my name on your board." "Oh, come in, my friend. I want to get Jamie back." And he was quite jovial. I mind when I sat down, he says to me, "You scared of me?" I says, "No, why would I be scared of you?" He used to say, "Talk about the management." "Oh, the bastards are scared of me." I said, "Well, I'm not." I says, "By the way, see this office? I've been in here more times than you." I said, "I see every managing director. I've been in doing safety cartoons or whatever it is." I says, "So I've been here longer than you." But here we are, that's where we were.
So the cartoon that was done...
it was either you had a sling on or you had a straight jacket. I can't remember.
No, it was a straight. What happened was it was 3 pictures, A, B, and C. Right, it shows me. It shows you me doing all the animations, etc. Right, and the next one it shows you 2 guys coming out, right,
dragging you away.
And then in the third one, it's me with him, but I can't speak.
That's what it says. I mind he saying something like that. And he said, "What does that mean?" I says, "If you take Jamie's arms off, he can't speak."
That's right. So that was the funny thing. That was a humour. You know the yards. That's what legendary for it.
Jamie, thanks very much. We've done another hour and a half. It says I've had a good session. Enjoy the rest of your time, mate. Hope everything goes well for you. Thanks very much.
Thanks yourself.
Cheers. Thanks, Chris.